Stop talking, start doing. Stop talking, start doing.
You're looking to be more creative and innovative? And one of the keys to unlocking your potential is an entrepreneurial mindset. I like to say it's mission granted. No one is successful overnight.
Keep on keeping on.
Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at in the world, and welcome to day 29 of 31 Days to Patitude. Put a Dent in the Universe with me, SEAN GRIFFIN. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to some of our watch groups in Vietnam, Zambia, Uganda, California, Georgia, Atlanta, and other locations that are out there. I want to thank you all for your support in watching the show as we work to make life better for people who are participating and viewing around the world in this difficult and challenging time. Normally I would go into some kind of exercise, but we have a special guest here today, this morning, and I'd love to bring Gordon Ruda on right now. Gordon?
Hey, buddy.
Welcome.
Good to see you, man.
You are in a perfectly beautiful location there.
It's not so bad. Up here in wine country, a little chilly. You can hear the birds chirping, I think.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful thing. For those who don't know, who are watching, that Gordon and I have started at least 3 businesses together back in, Gordon, it's 27 years ago we started working together. You know that?
Thank you for the reminder.
Well, I was going to say that gray hair is starting to show up and remind us just the realities of our time on this planet, I guess.
The years of generating wisdom, we'd like to think, right?
Yeah, well, it's definitely in the past couple years that wisdom's gotten a lot stronger and has sunk in. And I don't even remember. You remember Don Perrin, right? Dr. Don Perrin.
I have recently thought of Dr. Don Perrin, actually.
He's been on my mind too, and doing this right now, one of our projects, the University of the Future with distance education, which is a lot of what we're doing right now, right here.
It's pretty amazing to think about. He is really one of my first mentors, and I don't know where in the world Don Perrin is. Elizabeth Perrin, his wife, I remember from, again, almost 30 years ago, and gave me my first opportunity to speak. I remember he hired me to speak to the faculty and do a workshop for about 200 faculty members of San Jose State University, which I still had not graduated from. So as a student, he had enough trust in me and saw something that allowed me to give a crazy talk on organizational shiatsu was the name of the talk.
Of course.
And this was 1993, maybe?
Yeah. Well, we connected in 93, Gordon.
Yeah. Wow.
It's incredible. And so a lot's changed since then, right? And I think that what one of the things that keeps coming up in terms of the questions, and I want to remind everybody, you can text and WhatsApp your questions to 202-642-7089. We've been getting a lot of input from people that are stuck. Now, Gordon, you work now with some of the leading CEOs and corporations in the world, part of, let me get this right, Oliver Wyman. And what are you seeing and what kind of advice are you giving or sharing with the clients you have, and that might help anybody out there to understand some of the leading edge thinking or improved thinking right now in terms of how to survive and thrive in this time?
Yeah, I didn't know what we were going to talk about this morning, Sean, so I'm happy to dive into that.
I don't either necessarily. It's unscripted.
We'll see where this goes. Sound okay, by the way? A little noise happening with some farm equipment down there.
Great. I got trash people outside. Okay. I'm in a big city, so.
Yeah. So on that note, I wrote an article about a month ago, which got a decent amount of traction, and I've done a couple of podcasts on that topic of what is leadership look like in a really uncertain times? What happens in a leader's mind, and what's the responsibility for leaders? And I'm happy to talk about that because there's part of it I'll build on the initial thesis for what I'm feeling right now. So I'll get to the fear issues that are really concerning me right now. But basically, what I wrote about an uncertainty is just to recognize, number one, as a leader, that your own mindset is first and foremost. If we're in anxiety, if we're in fear, if we are leaking out the insecurities that we have, and there's lots of reasons to have them, right? There's a lot of uncertainty out there, but recognize that people are looking to us as models right now. So our own self-care, our own self-awareness, our own self-reflection and contemplation, and that's first and foremost for me. And how I talk to leaders right now is to recognize that their own personal challenge, which is very real right now, has to be first and foremost, because you can't classically, like putting on the oxygen mask for yourself before you do your seatmate. You have to do that self-care piece. And if that means just putting your feet in the dirt for a few minutes a day and feeling some fresh air and taking some deep breaths and spend some time with joy and with your family and play. And it's hard to think about joy and play right now, but it's critical, right? So that's first for me. Second is to recognize the people around them, that are going through quite a bit, right now, and to have a deep sense of empathy for what folks are going through, and recognize that for any number of people, they might be acting out right now. They might be closed down right now. They might just be confused. And to know that, hey, their mother might be in a home. They don't know, whether they're going to see them or not. They don't know if their kids are dealing with such stress at school. So you have to really give space for people right now, which brings the third sort of point I bring up in the article, which is you got to get stuff done. So in the context of your own self-awareness and self-work and empathy, okay, well, how are leaders going to get stuff done right now? And the image that I've had in my mind is that many leaders are sort of in an ER, right? They're in an emergency room environment. They're in triage, this business that they have, whether it's a department, whether it's a small business, whether it's some of the largest companies in the world. As an executive, you are in triage at this moment and you're getting out of that moment. But imagine you have 20, 30 people in the operating room telling you what to do, right? And everyone wants to know what they can do. So you have all of these questions and feedback all around you right now while you're doing emergency surgery on this business. And yet beyond that close room of senior executives, there may be 5,000 people, 50,000 people who are sitting on the sidelines and wanting to add value, wanting to contribute. So how do you give space for that contribution? How do you give them a sense of purpose? How do you give them assignments that are really hard, that are challenging, that allow them to dig in? How do you get them into the real game of the P&L, whether it's reducing cost, if it's finding revenue streams, it's innovation, the real game of what the business is going through right now? And how do you give that sort of instruction and give space for that and iterate with them? How do you be in co-creation when you're doing that self-work, when you're empathizing with those around you? So it's a very layered reality for folks. So I do have a profound sense of empathy for what leaders are going through right now.
For sure. I mean, whether that's some of the businesses that are growing by 1,200% because they just happen to be the right business at the right time, or those that are struggling to figure out a path to survive. We've had a number of people on the show, and we didn't know what was going to happen, but a big part of the show has been rebooting your brain, right? Yeah. Rethinking how you perceive the world. The world has changed. It's never going to be the same. It's going to be different. Now, how do you adjust? And a lot of people have been stuck, Gordon. They've been, we get a lot of questions about, just how to take that action. Within all of the first two elements you talked about within leadership, the third one was taking action. And it appears that right now, a lot of people are stuck or are incapable of figuring out how to take the action or which action to take. Too many choices, too many concerns, fears. What advice would you have for anybody who may be stuck, has a sense of what to do, but isn't moving forward? What would you recommend in terms of moving forward and getting unstuck?
Yeah.
People normally aren't stuck. A lot of these people, I mean, we truly are a global audience, lots of business builders, and they're stuck. And so this action piece is really the thing that I've been pushing at as well. But how do you get somebody to take action when they're stuck?
So fun little space to walk through, and let's go down a couple of alleys on this walk. First is what is the root cause of stuck, right? So root cause analysis, and when we talk about organizational shiatsu, this first talk 30 years ago, and advancing that over the years and studying organizations through the concept of energy, right? And you think about that. So what is stuck? When you think about stuck energy, where is it stuck? And one of the items that you spoke to, which I think is so profound right now, is just fear, right? So we are keeping people in fear in a pretty intentional way in society. And when I say we, I don't join in that particular way. But when you see certain agendas being played out right now, there's no reason to get a death count every day on TV. There's no reason, right? Yeah. There's no reason to sort of brand this thing COVID-19, this invisible enemy, from Wuhan. I mean, it's got a great brand to freak people out, right? Brilliant branding, death counts every day, watching in the hospitals. Chris Como, who I used to really dig, talking about, shattering his teeth because he's, at night so scared and so cold. It's like, you know what, folks? And I just want to sort of reduce this fear at some level, right? When you deal with this death count number and the fear based on, you could die. Just quick reminders from the audience, and many people know this already, but just quick reminders. We are at a 0.1 to 0.3 death rate. 98 to 99% of the people are not going to die from this. They will come out unscathed. 98 to 99% of people will come out unscathed from COVID. Either asymptomatic, light symptoms, completely recovered. That's 98 to 99%. And this 1%, you're dealing with mostly people with comorbidity issues, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cardiovascular disease. These are real issues for people. And a lot of them are old. I saw the stats. I'm not going to quote them here because they're different every day, but a significant portion of that 0.1 to 0.3% are elderly and sick people. So if you're not elderly and sick, if you don't have the comorbidity issues, then just reel yourself back here. How many people die in medical errors a year? 250,000, right? How many people die from, accidents, from heart disease? These things are bigger numbers than what we're dealing with COVID by a long shot. And people critique me for this point because, this is, how dare you say that, Gordon? This is, you have to go outside. You have to take care of yourself. This is a spreadable disease. Heart disease is not spreadable. Well, if you think about this, and I've been wanting to say this to an audience.
Great.
Think about this, right? Why are we getting these death counts? Why are we wearing masks? The message is to be compliant, to keep distant from people, to reduce the spread, right? And so it's about compliance, behavioral compliance, right? You can challenge that, but I think that the understanding is the reason why we're getting these messages, and the CDC and the WHO is letting us know what we can do and what we can't do, is to comply, to reduce the spread and to reduce the numbers, right?
Right.
So if we're trying to get messages to shift behavior, to reduce death, why aren't we doing that for heart disease? Why aren't we doing that for cancer? Why aren't we doing this? I'm like, if you got the medical error numbers every single day, 250,000 people dying in a hospital, what message would you get? You'd probably get the message, don't go to the freaking hospital.
That's right.
Right? That would scare you away from that one. Well, heart disease, how about that one? Maybe you'd eat better. Maybe you'd exercise more. So if we want to change people's behavior, let's talk about how to get healthy. Let's talk about how to build our immune systems. Locking ourselves into our homes, being scared out of our minds, watching the news all day, eating packaged food, eating more sugar, making ourselves more susceptible to viruses is not the answer. So I think number one about being unstuck is to have context.
Yeah.
And context.
What we've been driving home here is that there are more opportunities now than there have ever been. And COVID-19 has propelled us 10 to 20 years into the future. So whatever was back there is now possible in a different way right now. So you got to be thinking, which you and I are always future thinkers. So it's just an opportunity, a rare opportunity to leapfrog forward if you have enough sense of this, and enough insights, vision to go forward. So, Gordon, this is really interesting what you're saying, and I just watching everything and kind of absorbing, and I still don't think we know a lot about what's going to happen next, right? In terms of when we've reopened here in the U.S. at least, and people pretty much going back to normal or even more extreme, right? When you suppress people, they're going to even go crazier, right? Just how it works. So I was prepared for that because I knew you can't suppress people; they're just getting bottled up. But what can we do? What could someone do to be more, to be less? How do we overcome fear? How do we face it? How do we move forward with it in a way that is productive and positive? One of the sayings we have here is "do it afraid." Micro experiments, small steps, experiment takes a larger picture. What are your thoughts here in terms of like, because fear for me motivates me, right? I'm like, this is an opportunity here. I'm feeling this. It gets me going. Chaos, you know this. The more chaotic it is, the more centered I become. Okay, I know what to do. That's practiced years of in challenging situations, and so. But people who don't have that experience, what is it they can do to like manage that fear?
Yeah. So we talk about having context as a way of getting unstuck, and that's context to the present. Here's the situation. Now you're talking about leapfrogging into the future, and now from present to the future, now we're in a world of uncertainty, right? What is happening in the business world? What's happening with our families and our value systems and money and technology, and everything is sort of like my friend John Marshall shared with me. There's certain moments in life where it's just jump ball. It's like, where's this thing going? We don't know.
Yeah.
There's a moment that's jump. We haven't seen a jump ball moment, a reboot moment like this in our lives.
No, it's a miraculous time to be alive, actually.
It is. So you're right. You have a particular wiring, Sean, and I know this about you, that dealing with what you have in your life, and especially as a young person, you figured out how to operationalize fear and to move forward. A lot of people don't have that skill, and I'd go back to my friend Vic Frankl, right? To have a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
So to figure out what is it that motivates you, and what can get you through this uncertainty. I mean, certainly throughout that time, Viktor Frankl and others, who dealt with, and I think about the 1930s and 40s quite a bit right now, and I see what's happening in society and slippery slopes that we're on, and where we could get some types of leadership and autocracies and oligarchies and a different shift right here. So I think a lot about that moment, and having a sense of purpose in what guides you, having an anchor in your own value system and seeing opportunity for yourself is key. Now, so purpose is an intrinsic thing. It's within you. You have to find that. So you have to uncover and unpack to locate that. So that's the intrinsic or internal view. The external view, I'm going to join you as an entrepreneur. I mean, man, I'll quote somebody else, Kevin Kelly in The Inevitable. It's the beginning of the beginning. There will be more businesses started when this thing dives and it hits its bottom. And we don't know when it's going to hit bottom, but it's still diving.
Yep.
When it hits bottom, and that's coming soon, whether it's this year, next year, it's coming. When that hits bottom, we're going to see a pivot up like we've never seen before in history.
Yeah.
And the entrepreneurism, the technology, all of the interconnectedness, where people find their sense of purpose, the hunger that we have as individuals and as a society to overcome the situation, this feeling of victimhood that we have in fear, and owning that and coming out of that so strong, we're going to see a recovery. I believe like it's going to blow people's minds. So in terms of getting you unstuck and thinking about how do you move forward with action, getting a sense of purpose and finding your opportunity in this space and freaking owning it, and it's going to be some hard times going through this uncertainty to get to that outcome. And I know you talk quite a bit about that, just persistence and resilience. But yeah, find the thing that lights you up right now, and you have an opportunity to bring that into the world in a different way, in a more profound way than you ever have before. And then just, seizing it.
We had Gary Schoeniger on yesterday, Gordon, and he's a foremost expert on entrepreneurial mindset. He goes around the world, and it's not to start a business. His whole philosophy is that, if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you're a more valuable human. I'm paraphrasing and using his words. But he's written a couple books, and he's got a new one he's working on. His main thing is you have to have a compelling vision
Yep.
which is this purpose you're talking about. Maybe compelling vision is easier for someone, to grasp than a vision. We had Katya Miller on, Gordon.
What?
Katya Miller was on, and she was talking about, because we were with her when she had her vision for the Goddess of Freedom on top of
Wow.
Statue of Freedom. She's become the foremost expert on a Lady of Freedom, and now has discovered 500 years ago it's based upon a part Native American, part European, named America.
Huh.
Yeah. So, but one of the things was it's a vision, right? And it's hard. And the reason I bring that up is because I think it's hard for people to say, "Wow, a vision." I don't know if I have visions, but you can set up a compelling goal. Just I'm ratcheting it down here to it's similar, same that gets you off where you're at to move. Right. This compelling goal is a consistent thing. One of the things, and then we had another lady. We've had almost 80 guests there. I think today we'll hit 80. We had Risha Grant. She focuses on unconscious bias. Similar type of thing where what's holding us back, we don't even know necessarily, right? That it's holding us back.
Sure.
And so when we look at creating this compelling vision, compelling goal, what can someone do who comes up with it? I've got it. They got it in their head. They've got this compelling goal. They're super excited. Their eyes light up. They smile. And then all of a sudden, nope, can't do that. They block it. They shut it down, whatever it is. You have a trick for overcoming that kind of blockage?
So, in years of entrepreneurism and now working more with large companies, you're hitting on a really key point, which is break things down into their subparts, make things manageable for yourself, right? We do a lot of sprints, right? Yeah. We call these things sprints. You got a 1 year vision, you break it down into 4 quarters, you break those down into weeks, and you take on one piece at a time, you learn, you iterate, you course correct, and you take little bites. So I think that's right. The other thing I'd say is build freaking community, right? Like no creativity that's going to land in the world in a meaningful way is done by yourself anymore.
Yeah.
And when I say no, very little. Some people are magicians and they can do these really unique things autonomously, and that's beautiful. But I think for most of us, we're co-creators more than ever, right? So building a community of co-creators, of support for yourself as thought partners. We've always been that for each other. And when you have, as Brene Brown talks about, building this sort of board of directors, like your own personal vision board of directors, the people that you talk to, that advise you, that guide you. So whether it's advisors and boards, whether it is colleagues and community, or whether it is a partner to go into that vision with you, but just to recognize that the world in the future, it's making music with others and learning how to do that. And that's really important. So yeah, I think you're onto some key things here. Having a vision, having a goal, breaking them down, doing sprints, doing it with others, feeling a sense of support and community around you, and getting people to do the things that are exciting to you, and having people inspired by the things that inspired you, or joining someone else's vision and being inspired by theirs, but feeling connectedness. This is the thing that worries me most, and I'm happy to talk about this as we close, is, how do you move out of this fear that we're in right now?
Yeah, that's what
and some of the things that we do in organizational work is study, neurology and neurochemistry and things like that. And we know when we are flooded with neuroadrenaline, when we are flooded with cortisol, we know that we're in a fight or flight, which most of us are in most of the time now. And we have to recognize our bodies are not built for fight or flight in extended periods of time.
Right.
We as human beings, as in the animal kingdom, we are meant to take on that fear, and our bodies respond to that fear and give us this rush of adrenaline. So we go do that. We run away from that saber-toothed tiger, or we take on that hard meeting or whatever that is these days. But to be in the fear that we're in this extended period of time is incredibly unhealthy. So how do you start moving oxytocin back into your system? How do you feel love and connection and move out of that fear? When we are in that state, we can't think. Literally, our executive function, our working memory, our ability to deal with complex and critical problems goes away.
Yeah.
So that goes to my very first point and why I think it's really important to have these sort of conversations in the public right now. We have to dial things back. We have to get a sense of calm here. We have to get a sense of context. So, you can't move forward powerfully when you have no executive functioning in your brain.
Yeah. It's like all of our systems were in crisis. Many of our systems, if not all of them, were in crisis. And I know you know this, right? That's the health system or economic system. And a number of people who are specialists in the economy are saying we're in an isolation economy now, and that the economy has shifted and people are going to stay for at least the next 5 years in their homes because of behavior change, right? And so it's a new kind of economy to think about. I don't know if that's true or not, because we don't know. But these systems, ultimately, it's the systems that support these things that you're talking about. And then when you look and see what's happening, at least in the U.S., in Minneapolis, and these layers of, it appears to me we're in like a collection of crises all at once. It's not just one thing or two things. It's like everything's like in crisis. Then we have paint a global picture on that. What are your thoughts around the opportunities to come out of this on the other side in a better way? Because historically, events like this, and there have been, throughout history, and we're just fortunate enough, I think, again, we're fortunate to be alive during this time, that new world orders start happening, right? It seems to me that there's a lot of people playing Hungry Hippo and not chess right now, in a time when we should be playing chess. And then that everyone's moving to an isolation mode, even countries right now. How do we? I strongly believe there's real opportunity to make positive and productive change right now, but there's just as much opportunity to go backwards. What can we do to? And I know we're almost out of time with you here, but what are your closing thoughts in terms of what we can do to kind of like recontextualize, reel it back in, take a nice, take a more calm approach to what's going on, but then also the reality that I'm layering on now something that I just continue to see, like people are already not feeling well. And now, particularly in the States, I'm seeing more and more people posting about suicide watch, right? And being someone who did try to kill myself when I was in my 20s, and I learned just wait 5 minutes. So I have empathy for the situation, but underlying it all are these systems are broken. Or now they weren't in crisis. Now they're broken. What are your thoughts on this?
Wow, what a closing question, Sean.
Yeah, we can come back.
Yeah. Well, I just watched the suicide hotline rates the other day. I just watched it.
They must be going up the charts because I'm seeing more and more posts.
It's just horrific. And it's a scary time for a lot of people, and people don't deal with uncertainty really well, and isolation really well, and loneliness, and these things are so exacerbated right now. So I'm going to close with something that I learned from you, my friend.
Okay. Yeah, what's that?
It's about love, brother.
Always.
We've talked about this for, ever since I've known you, and the fear and the isolation. What is the remedy for that? There's a narrative at play here that we are separate. There's a narrative at play here that certain agendas and certain individuals or countries or powers are driving, one that is making us isolated, making us scared. There's another narrative too, and we choose our narratives.
Yeah.
Right? And we are a connected human family. There is no division between us geographically, racially. These things are all, as we know, at a deep sense of human wisdom, self-made divisions. We've proclaimed these things. They're not real. We are interconnected beings on this planet, right? Zach Bush, who I'm going to talk to this week, who I'm so excited about, talks about how we are viruses, right? We're scared of this virus. There is 10 to the 30th power viruses on the planet. Let's not hide from this one.
Right.
So we have to recognize that we are viruses. We are bacteria. We are more bacteria and virus than we are human. We are part of this planet. We are not separate from this planet. We're not separate from each other. We're in this thing together. So yeah, I'd like to end with that thought, Sean, is that the remedy for this stuff is self-love, is to shift the narrative to one of love of one another, love of our planet, being connected, and here to support one another through this difficult time, knowing that in that sense of vision, that sense of purpose, that there's great opportunity for all of us. It's not scarcity, it's all abundance. These are things that we've talked about together for 30 years. Yep. So I love you, man.
I love you too, Gordon. Thank you so much.
Message out there.
What a great way to close. I love you.
Always a pleasure, brother. Yeah, thanks for doing what you do, man.
Thank you. Bye, Gordon.
Right,
you too. Well, and that, my friends, was a beautiful close there in terms of a difficult conversation around our current reality and where we're headed. But what underlies that is your ability to love and love abundantly, unconditionally, and allowing that to project outwards. So that was really very nice, Gordon. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, who's our next guest, Amy? Oh, a vision board. Arvin.
Hey, good morning.
Oh, good to see you, my friend. Did you watch Gordon at all? I was hoping you were watching that.
Hey, you know something, Sean? I want to share something with you that you guys just spoke about, and I just want to. I'm all about sharing with people about something to read, but also, this is very easy for people to do if they're interested in this.
Good.
Have you ever heard of Napoleon Hill?
Of course.
Okay. Napoleon Hill, back in the 1920s or so, came out with this book about the laws of success.
Yes.
Okay. And he was hired by Andrew Carnegie. Now, for all you millennials, you may not know who that. Andrew Carnegie at the time was one of the richest man in the country. And
steel.
he had, I'm sorry?
Steel. He made his money with steel, right?
Correct. But he had hired Napoleon Hill, who was an author, to teach people about success. And there were 16 laws in there. But it was a quote, as you guys were speaking, that I came across, because I have his books. My uncle bought his books a long time ago, and he gave them to me.
That is fabulous.
I have the original books, okay?
That is beautiful.
Okay.
That's
the original Laws of Success book.
That's beautiful.
So as you guys were speaking, when you were talking about leadership and being stuck, I want to share this one quote out of the book.
Okay.
Listen to this. It said, "It takes a second to administer a rebuke, but it takes a lifetime for the one who has been rebuked to forget it." So think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of leaders are always thinking about what somebody told them, which gets them stuck. Yeah. They start thinking about somebody has told them something, even though it was a long time ago. It's still in their mind, and they don't know how to get past it. So I would encourage everyone who's listening to this and who'll get a chance to look up Napoleon Hill, look up the 16 Laws of Success. It's very easy. And go through the things that he talks about as it relates to leadership, about getting unstuck, about the things you need to do, believe in yourself, the imagination. It all internalized comes in here. If you believe it, you can do it. Now, a lot of people may know Napoleon Hill about Think and Grow Rich.
Right.
That's a watered down version. Go to the Laws of Success.
Okay. We're gonna read it here. Yeah. That's a great advice. The other one I would bookend with that is Deepak Chopra's Laws of Abundance, which actually fits nicely with Napoleon Hill. I think they might even be next to each other on my show.
Yeah.
Now, we've had a number of conversations. I'm gonna pick up on where you're at because Gordon. We didn't get into one of the things he's working on. He's working on a conference with 1,000 of the 1,000 top CEOs, and it's called Better by Design, and they're going to start designing, and he's facilitating that through an online forum co-creation thing. So he's in it, in the thick of it, but he's at the corporate level, not so much the entrepreneur startup level. But it sounds like everyone's having the same problem wherever you are, even whatever level of leadership you're in, because I'm sure they're getting even more information, right? More data stacks and stuff. but that's just the same. That conversation still in your head, that or that thing that's holding you back is still there, right? Whatever that is what you're talking about, right? This talk in your head. What techniques do you use to overcome that negative conversation that I'm not good enough, I can't do it, or no, that won't work kind of thing? What do you do to overcome that thinking? Because everybody's got it. I mean, I just
everybody has it. But
the other day.
So this morning, every other morning, I try to get out and run between 4 and 5 miles. I've done two marathons, a couple of, okay. And every time when I'm out, when I'm running, I'm always saying, my mind always tells me stop. But internally, I know I've ran 26 miles. Why am I going to stop? Okay. So that's the same psychological context that a lot of people go through when they have an idea. If you know you can accomplish that, why stop?
Yeah.
Okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
it does.
You got to have some type of internal instinct into yourself that says to you, hey, I've done this before. So go internally and look at what you have accomplished before that you got through. It could have been you graduated from college. It could have been that you got a certificate. It could have been you got your driver's license. It could have been anything. But just internalize something that you have done before and how did you get there, and use that as your motivation. So every morning when I'm out, I always say, why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this to stay healthy, first of all.
Right.
Forget the gray here, excuse that.
But
I'm doing it to stay healthy. But at the same time, that helps me. So when I'm sitting thinking about, as I explained to you guys in my first time I came on, I'm at a pivot right now with my business. Yeah. My primary business was working with doctors and physicians. They're not doing anything. We're shut down here in Maryland. We're slowly opening up, but doctors, they can do services that they can get services that I provide at a very cheaper cost. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what do you do now? What do you do? How do you use your knowledge? Platforms like what you're doing. Can I share things with people? Can I introduce them? But at the same time, I started thinking about, what did this pandemic teach me about small businesses? Where are some opportunities that I can go and still help small business or startups or businesses that are already out there who may be stuck themselves? So that's where my thinking is right now. With my skills, my marketing, my sales, my business development, my know-how, what are the opportunities I can use to, as the gentleman who was just on Gordon, talking about the opportunities that may be next. So that's what I'm looking at. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I use that, and not necessarily that's it for me. I'm looking at, hey, I've done this before. Okay. Right. Just like the running, I've done this before. I've started a business. I've started a couple of businesses. I've been in business with people. So what can I do next? And it's just a planning phase right now. I would encourage any entrepreneur, if you're stuck, go back to your marketing business plan. You wrote some visions out there about how you wanted to grow, and it may have been 4 years down the road or 5 years down the road. Well, that 4 or 5 years is here now.
Right.
So you may not have to pivot to that right now.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, we had, I can't remember, anyone, maybe, I forget who it was. Somebody was on here who was talking about breaking it down. So let's say you're in the restaurant business and you had this vision for your restaurant. You now need to tear that idea down in a positive way, not like destroy it, like totally destroy it, but then rebuild it back up into something different than what it was before. So this process of, particularly around COVID, is an interesting one, to just tear it down, break it down, to pull out that business model, that plan, and then tear it down and redesign it, rebuild it from scratch with a new perspective.
Yeah, but Sean, it's really interesting. I don't know if it's with your program, Build a Better Business, or was with another program I was teaching on. You know how many people came? I'm trying to think how many food groups came to present to us.
Yeah.
Who didn't have a brick and mortar?
That's right.
There were several.
Yeah.
Presenting opportunities without a brick and mortar, right?
That's right.
And the gentleman who won the came in first and second place, who came out of, he was a returning citizen. He started selling these wraps, or so to speak. You remember the gentleman? I can't remember, but hear me out.
Yeah.
He didn't have a brick and mortar. He was taking these wraps or whatever he was doing and was going place to place to place to place to sell them.
Yeah, yeah. You're talking about it wasn't Muhammad. It was,
but this is what I'm saying. So you look at his business model at that time. He wanted to do a food cart sort of facility, right?
Yep.
Versus, and then his goal was to have a brick and mortar, which in our thoughts was, why do a brick and mortar if you're doing so well here and bringing in revenue?
That's right.
So who's in a better situation right now, him or that brick and mortar restaurant?
Yeah,
The
him.
brick and mortar restaurant is trying to get to where he is.
Yeah.
So even if he was stuck about trying to grow his business, he could help a brick and mortar get to where he was. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So he wanted to do these little food carts to go around selling his food, something he made specially for everybody else. I think it was some wraps or something of that nature.
It was
producing revenue. It was producing revenue. So in this midst of COVID right now, where people are shuttered in place, if somebody was to come and knock on my building right now and say, hey, I can bring you meals, hot, served around this time every day, I'll sign up in a heartbeat.
Yeah, totally.
Okay?
Yeah.
So with something like that, now for him as a business, that means he has more knowledge about how he did it, how he put it together, how he's marketing. So that brick and mortar would really rely on him more than him relying on them.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of pivoting and using knowledge. So that's my whole point here is use the knowledge that you have right now in this situation to either help yourself or help somebody else.
That's right. Well, help yourself and help other people as well.
Correct.
Right? In particular, I think for sure.
Correct.
You know, what I'm wondering is what are you advising some of your clients on right now in terms of just for their own reinvention? Are they being open to it? Are they pushing back, or what are you experiencing when you start talking like this with clients?
You know, with the doctors that I've had at clients, pretty much I've really shuttered everything down because
Gone.
Provide them a service. Only thing I've said to them is stay relevant. You know, you have a database of patients who have come to you. Use the social media platforms that I set up for you to utilize that to stay in touch with your customers, your patients. Let them know what's going on with you, first of all. Are you seeing patients? Are you doing procedures? What it is that, because only thing they have right now is the fear from what's been shown on the news, or some type of communication portal that basically that I set up, utilize it. So now's the time for you to become an author of the platforms that you have.
Right.
So learn how to use Twitter. Learn how to use, well, don't use Instagram because you can't take pictures, but learn how to use Twitter and Facebook
Right.
basically with your audience and let them know what's going on.
You could have like the coolest doctor and he can go on TikTok and do a doctor dance.
But a lot of the doctors that I had as clients were elective procedures where insurance wasn't involved. So, but it was more about educating these particular patients about why they need to get the service done. So what I encourage them to do is use the platforms, learn how to use it, become an author, become an owner of your content now. And that's it. You know, so for me is, again, how do I reinvent Marvin and 94th Street Marketing Group? Would 94th Street Marketing Group be the same thing as it was this year versus next year? Or would it be something totally different?
And what ideas do you have? What are you thinking?
I'm leaning more along the lines of teaching.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm leaning more on the lines of sitting. I get more joy. You just don't know how much joy I got out working with you and working these other programs.
Yeah.
And then people come in with bright ideas. Okay. And being able there to say, like I tell my sons, I have two boys, 31 and 32, who are doing their own things. But I have to always remind them, and it's an old cliche I say to them, listen, guys, I don't forget more than you know. All right. I have to tell them all the time. I've forgotten more than you know. The technology may have changed. The business is still the same. The model is still the same.
Yeah.
So, you know, you utilize POPs when you need to utilize POPs. I understand what you're doing, but I can tell you right now, you're going to run into this. right? So I say that to entrepreneurs today, or people starting a business, or people who are already in the business who may be stuck. And the other thing, when I say to people too, read, pick up a book, pick up more knowledge as much as you can. I think I shared with you guys last time I was on about the book I was reading.
Looking Around the Corner. What was it called?
It was called Reflection Point. You know,
Reflection Point, yeah. But it was Seeing Around the Corner was the
seeing around the corner, what's coming next, and things of that nature, and it goes to that. Another one of my main books that I always try to refer to people is Positioning. You know, so read as much as you can during this downtime. Learn as much as you can during this downtime. You know, something I did the other day, and I share with people, I took the exam or did the classes on becoming a contact tracer. Okay. Now, I know healthcare. I know healthcare marketing, but I know sales, and I know sales. But the contact tracing I thought fit in my wheelhouse, because now I'm looking at I get certified. They don't need more contact tracers. Maybe I can start a business.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that.
I have a call center that I can do business with. Maybe there's some contracts out there from state and local and federal.
That's great.
So,
yeah, that's thinking different, and just
that's stuff that I'm looking at right now. Okay. So that's what I advise people. Read as much as you can. Look at your business model. Dust off the cobwebs to it. It's not over. It's not over yet. There's opportunities. You just got to figure out where your opportunity is going to be.
It's a new beginning.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And you know what? You have, and one of the things that I really have been impressed, just the experience I've had with you together in coaching, judging, evaluating businesses, is you just have a pure heart for this, Marvin. It's not, you know, like I work with, as you know, a lot of mentors, and you know, they're not all created equal, and it's rarer to find someone like yourself who comes at it with the purity of agenda to just the reward you receive is the reward of them being successful and moving forward. That's your reward. And I saw that in you, and I think that it's a great move on your part to move more intentionally into educating, training, enhancing, improving people's capacity to build their business and grow their business, because while you may have been focused on just medical, my experience is you've got a broad sense of industries across a whole spectrum, not just medical.
Yeah,
like, you know, because I don't think there really literally I don't think is any particular industry I haven't touched unless it hasn't been invented yet. And I felt the same with you. Like, you could talk to a restaurateur or somebody who's building an app that's or a medical, or just it doesn't matter what it was, or fashion, right? A fashion company. You have the universal keys inside of you that transcend the particular type of business.
You know, the fortune, I appreciate that, Sean. The one thing that my foundation has built on, one, having some strong people in my life, but at the same time, having a good foundation for our work. When I got out of college, I was recruited by Procter & Gamble. And if you know anything about Procter & Gamble, and people don't know who Procter & Gamble is, look, just look in your shelves, look in your pantries. P&G is all over there. Yeah. And I was a sales manager with them for 2.5 years. And then I moved on to another company right now where everybody's using their product, Lysol. I was a sales manager with them for 3 states. Okay. When I look at sales and marketing, there's some principles of what Procter & Gamble and also L&F products at the time that own Lysol that they have about products is learning about your products, features and benefits, but know more about your competitors as well. Because when you go in front of a buyer, you want to be the authority on that particular subject.
Yeah.
No other person. So they instilled that in us as a person. So when I started, when I got out of the consumer marketing business, I got into radio, and I was a salesperson with them and helping them get into getting new business. And I helped develop that with radio stations. Then I moved into TV, and I did concerts with Black Entertainment Television. I did 12 markets. So my platform always increased from consumer packaged goods to broadcasting, from broadcasting into entertainment to children's entertainment, So I was able to take those principles that I learned at Procter & Gamble and L&F Products and transfer them over to the other industries.
Yeah.
To this day. So
they're universals. I mean,
yeah, they're universal.
Universals, and you can't lose when you do that, because every business is pretty much the same except for the people that are in it and the culture and your target audience and your target
product and the product.
But everything else is pretty much
it's the same. It's what can you, it's what people now call about the customer experience, right?
That's right.
And so how do you stand up to that customer? What are you going to deliver to that customer in the most efficient and effective way? And those are the things. So when we used to sit there and judge people coming up with their products, I used to always listen to them pitch and say, I see that. But have you thought about this? And it's not a way to take away their dream. It's just to challenge them to think outside the box.
That's right. I have a question for you. Yesterday, I think it was Gary Schoninger who came on, and he was saying that it's not about customers, it's about humans. Customers are humans. And so it's really the human experience that the business is trying to create. And that by calling him a customer, we're not paying attention to, we're not able to fully grasp how to give the human the best experience that is also our customer. What do you think of this, a notion? It was new to me.
Well,
let me repeat it again, because it's kind of heavy. We talk about customers, but when we talk about a customer, it's like we're not. It's not a person; it's a customer, right? But the reality is that customer is a human that's making the decision to make that purchase, and we're focused on a customer experience, but not necessarily the human experience. I just wonder what your initial thoughts are on this.
Well, I have never heard it that particular way, but one thing I would say when I think about that is that not all humans are your customers, though.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right? So I would really have to break that down and really think about that. So
my mind has been churning on this a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't think all customers are humans. It may be a corporation, right? And so, but there's a human making a decision on that purchase, probably. So it is a human thing. And it's just something to ponder, because that could be profound to shift that thinking from customer to human experience, and still that also is a customer.
Well, let me say it like this.
Yeah.
I think when we put customer on it, we make it more transactional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're looking for a transaction, so we label it as a customer. But in life terms, it is a human experience. When I walk into a restaurant, I'm looking for the experience I'm going to feel in that particular environment, right?
Yes.
When I'm here listening to you or watching you and participating, I'm looking at what type of experience I'm going to feel with you as a human being. You know, the language, the talk, the knowledge that I'm going to get, right? So love. So that is the human aspect of it. So the terminology customer experience is more transactional related. Mm-hmm. But overall, when we come out of it, it's a human experience, because we come out feeling great about what it is that we encountered, either being from the restaurant, from the knowledge, from the conference, or whatever it may be. It's still a human aspect to it. But the customer, I think, standpoint comes from the transactional aspect of it.
Yeah, so it shifts it, right? Because
it does.
Apple creates a human experience when you walk into their stores or whatever that maybe are opening up now again, but were at least, it's just an experience. They're creating a human experience. And I think that they've been a really good company consistently by thinking about humans being more creative, right? For them, it was empowering people to be more creative and create. That was the initial, right? The iMac, when it came out, was like empower people to be more creative. And so it's just there's something to this, and it's just a little there's something to keep us thinking about related to this human experience versus customer experience. Human first, customer second.
Yeah, but at the same time, what I'm saying is that I think the customer thing is more transactional, right? We're looking for a transaction. We want to give them something for them to give us something back in return.
Right.
And maybe we do need to look at the human experience. But I want to touch on something when you said about Apple. One of the things that I admired about Steve Jobs, and is basically Steve Jobs never did any focus groups.
Right.
Okay.
He was his focus group, I think.
Right. what Steve Jobs did with his technology and with his inventions and said, you need this. And I'm going to tell you why you need it. So the iPhone, the phones, the iPods, all that stuff.
Personal computer.
All of it. He just said, hey, I created this. You're going to want it. Here it is. Forget about what the market says. I'm telling you what you're going to need. And that was the innovation about him that I really admired about what he did. He said, I'm going to do it this particular way, and I'm going to give it to you, and you're going to love it. And that's where the human experience comes into play.
Well, his mission really, if you look at some of his earlier conversations around marketing and branding of Apple, it's that empowering people to be more creative.
There you go.
Create. And that was his mission. So it was a human experience. I just think when we break down a customer as transactional, they're separate from us instead of being part of us. And today as a business, particularly now, you need to be a little more connected, right? The same thing you're advising all of your doctors to do, stay connected, stay relevant, but it's also just staying connected. And that's to your customer who's a human. It's not really your customer. It's a customer because there's a transaction that can take place, but you're trying to stay, particularly as a doctor, you're trying to stay connected as a human, right? A more human. It's a fascinating thing, and my brain has been rolling on this for a while. No answers. I just wanted to see what your thoughts were.
Yeah, hey, I see it. I'm glad you shared that with me because it's something to really put in your mind. Let's look at it as less transactional and look at more of what it is I'm getting out of it as a human being.
And what am I giving back? What are they getting for that transaction instead of it? I think a lot of businesses truly think of it as a transaction, like you're saying, and the transaction is me getting money, the business getting money.
Yeah.
And while I'm trying to create value, it's still how much more money can we get? It may be like an evolutionary step just to go back to probably what it was, what's old is new again.
But it comes up, hey, Sean, I like that. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, because what you just shared with me and the gentleman who she shared that with you, you're exactly right. Because when I look at the context of this, and I was sharing this with my lady friend, and it's unfortunate, we will not be able to go to our happy hour spots anymore, okay, right now at this particular juncture. But there was an experience that it wasn't a custom, it was fun. It was nice. It was engaging. It's something we look forward to.
Yeah, and you're reconnecting and
we're connecting. We're seeing other people. We're people watching. So that did something to us internally. You know, so that human experience that we were able to enjoy, I mean, pre-COVID versus post-COVID, it's gone now. And that wasn't just a customer experience. That was a human experience. So I get it.
Yeah. It's a mind shift, I think. And it's one that I'm working through. And I know that if I shared it with you, you'd work through that too. We have a couple more minutes. And Amy, do we have any, we had somebody here from Zambia. I think we lost them. Are you there, Amy?
I'm here. No, she's signed off, and I think it might be.
Hey, Amy, how you doing?
Hi, good morning.
You might have lost power as well.
Yeah, I do have one unresolved incoming WhatsApp question.
You want to do a co-coaching on this question here together, Marvin?
Sure.
Let's do it. I'll read the question out loud when it comes up. I've been considering getting a virtual assistant. I don't know what to give them to do or what to turn over. I've been doing it all for so long. Where do I start? Marvin, what are your thoughts on this? Do you use virtual assistants?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. First of all, you got to ask the question, why do you think you need one?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is your business or is your life that busy that you need a second person? If you need a second person, is a virtual assistant the way to go? So to me, it sounds like more or less that you need to look at your schedule of what it is that you're doing. Maybe your planning or your life management of what you're doing is not the best it can be right now. So I would just do some assessments.
Yeah, and before I would hire a virtual assistant, I'd be clear on what you're going to assign that virtual assistant, because they're not as accountable in some ways, and it's going to take a while to test those virtual assistants. I've had probably 3 or 4, and they're not created equal. And And then you got I would test their ability to communication ability. Sometimes virtual assistants are in other countries, and so you want to make sure that their ability to write and communicate is strong.
Right.
And then you got to make sure there's a chemistry there, because you're going to be communicating through text and emails, but every once in a while you may need to talk. You just want to make sure that that person is going to be able to pick up on what you're needing as you go through this process of emails and texting back and forth. And some people can misinterpret or write in a way that is misunderstood as it comes through. So those are my advices on just like determining who to pick for a virtual assistant, but also being clear on what you want that virtual assistant to do. No vagueness. The more vagueness, the less value you get out of that virtual assistant.
Yeah, that's good advice, Sean. But at the same time, I would encourage them, look at what it is, why you think you need a virtual assistant, first of all. Because that's a heavy burden right there, because you're managing not your work and their work as well.
Well, and it's tied directly to your work, so it creates double work, at least in the beginning, and that's why the chemistry is so important. So, but I think you're right, Marvin. I try not to add anybody to my team unless necessary, because it just creates more work.
That's true. You think
and they'll create more work, because what's going to happen is they'll start booking meetings for you, and they'll start doing things, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, how did I get so busy? Well, it's because you got a virtual assistant. So you got to really evaluate that, because you will get busier with a virtual assistant.
That's true. That's true.
That's great.
Marvin? I want to say to you, I like what you're doing here. And thank you for allowing me to be part of it. Amy, thank you as well. I think what you're doing for the entrepreneurs and the startups is relevant. It's important as much as needed. So thank you. Okay.
You're welcome, Marvin, and thank you. And you know, I really consider you as like a partner in this to some degree. I know that we don't hang out a lot, but ever since we've been working together, you're somebody who's always on my mind, somebody I think about when I think about just going forward. And I always keep you I've collected you, just so you know.
Thank you.
You can collect me. You can collect me too. I'm good for it. But I think that. Thank you, and thanks for being part of this. And you know, we're gonna continue on. We're not quite totally sure how that's gonna be, but we'll be in touch, and you'll be one of the first to know as we go forward and continue to do something along these lines into the future.
Well, thank you, and Sean, also encourage all your participants, look up Napoleon Hill, The Laws of Success.
Laws of Success.
It's online. It's I'm not going to say it's an easy
read.
read.
We're posted right here. Buy this book. Buy this book.
Get the book.
Yeah.
And go online, read some of the excerpts of it, and because it's really empowering what it can give you and provide you. Because as while you and Gordon were speaking earlier, I had to go back and like, they're speaking about something that I have some reference to. And as I was reading, I was like, wow, I want to reread this again.
Yeah.
So it encouraged, that inspired me to go ahead and reread this, even though I read it a long time ago.
I've always said, like, there's Napoleon Hill, and then well, I was trying to think of who's another speaker out there like that. But those are based upon universal laws, right? Yep. They're universal laws. They don't change, and that's what's important about that. And there's universals for good, and there's universals for bad too, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to try to get your mind focused on the good and throw out the bad. And this book is a book that has universals of how to be more successful. Yeah. And most of it's around mind, right? It's just about, change your mind, change your behavior. Yeah. And this show, I didn't know would have so much of that, but the reality is, that's the key, right? You got to get your mind working in the right direction, have the right attitude, and
get the right attitude.
Come from a place of love. That's really where it's at. And I think Gordon was right about that. And sometimes I guess I forget, but that was a nice reminder. And Marvin, I love you too. Thank you for being here. We'll stay in touch.
Hey, stay healthy, stay well, stay safe, okay?
I will, always.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Bye. Well, there you go, folks. This was a fabulous. I'm sorry for our guest who was going to get coached. I guess they fell off, and I would have loved to have had that co-coaching go on with Marvin. We do have a winner for the 1 hour of one-on-one coaching with me, visual coaching. That is Melissa T. Congratulations, Melissa. We'll be in touch and to schedule a time, and then I'm going to help you take it to the next level and be better at whatever it is you're doing. I want to thank everybody for being here. Gordon, thanks for being on the show. Marvin, thanks for being on the show. Amy, thanks for all you do. Dahlia, love you. Everybody, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same Patitude time, same Patitude place. Thank you.
You got to never ever give up. Keep it up, keep it up. Never ever give up. Keep it up, keep it up. Never ever give up. Keep it up, keep it up. Never ever give up. Keep it up, keep it up. Griffin walks for life.
Believe in yourself and you'll go far.